folks. My name is Chris Carr, also known as Natural Body Man, and today I will be your presenter on the topic of what happens to lactic acid following exercise. Now, we can build up lactic acid several ways. We can do it, one, by curling this dumbbell right here. Okay, so you curl it. I just worked out biceps. Right? So I'm lifting it. Come on, baby. Come on, one more. Come on. Come on. Give it one more. Okay, so my muscle can't contract that much anymore right now. Okay, it's hard to lift. Also, if I was to go on a bike ride on the Tour de France and ride 100 miles a day in less than 4 hours, I would also accumulate a lot of lactic acid aerobically. That was more anaerobically, okay? It was done less than 3 minutes. As a matter of fact, that was done in about 20 seconds. This here would be done in 5 hours. But the end product is that lactic acid builds up. It's produced a lot, faster than it can be removed. So, how is it removed? Well, also I want to add that I recommend to do an active cool down, and that will subtly get rid of the lactic acid in a more efficient process, and it's also good to prevent from injuries. So your tendons, ligaments, and muscles are more pliable and flexible in these ranges of motion. But following exercise and your cool down, your workload decreases. So basically you're not exercising anymore, or you're exercising in a cool down very low. And therefore, your oxygen that you consume is much less. And as your oxygen that you consume is much less, your carbon dioxide that you exhale is much less. Your respiratory rate is much less. The amount of breaths that you inhale and exhale per minute is much less due to the workload and these factors. Also, your intensity level is greatly less. I mean, at that last rep, my intensity for curling a bicep on a single joint exercise was like 9.5 out of a 10 scale. Same thing for somebody riding a bicycle, sprinting as hard as they can to try to come into one of the top places. They're like at a 9.5 level of high intensity out of a 1 to 10 scale. Also, might I mention that I'm using predominantly creatine and high energy sugars when curling this, and the same with the bicycle when at the last 100-yard dash or the last mile, basically. Okay, it's all pure sugar and stuff at high intensity. So my RER, my respiratory exchange ratio, is much higher, utilizing sugars versus just utilizing fat as a slow energy source. So all these factors combine together, and basically your lactic acid is accumulating much higher in the workout, and it decreases because everything else decreases. Your workload, and because that decreases, eventually your blood lactate will decrease. Okay? Might I just a little mention that blood lactate, the byproducts that happens is that lactate splits off and hydrogen's ion splits off, and that causes a lot of the inability to contract your muscles. Okay? The hydrogen ions. But again, what happens to the lactate? It travels, usually 70% of it will travel to your muscles in your body, other muscles in your body, okay, to equal everything out. But also, it'll stay in that muscle just as well. Now, another 20% will go into your liver, okay, known as the Cori cycle. And that can be utilized later as converted back into energy and stuff when you're training again, okay, through the glycogenolysis process of converting stored sugar back into usable sugar, back into breaking down ATP for energy, baby. Yeah! Also, you can bring this lactate, and it can be shuttled into amino acids, into proteins for building blocks and stuff. So that's some pretty cool, fun stuff, right? Now check this out. Look what happens to the hormones, okay? So basically, because of these things have happened, and because what's happened with the breathing, it has decreased, and the carbon dioxide and your heart rate, your epinephrine in your body is lessened, and therefore glycogenolysis is lessened too. That's the process of converting glucose it's a process of converting glucose, sugar, to stored glycogen. Okay? Lest, as far as your secondary messengers are concerned, your CAMP is lessened. Okay? Also, which slows down glycogenolysis for all of you exercise science majors. Okay? Third off, your glucose 1,6-diphosphate, that is lower. That's the cause. And the effect, is that it slows your glycolysis process. What is glycolysis? Glycolysis is the sugar in your bloodstream, which is not much. It can't hold even but, I think, under 100 grams in your bloodstream, maybe even only 25 grams, I believe. And that is lessened, that's slowed down. Okay? Next, your glucose 2,6-diphosphate is lessened. And that also slows the process of glycolysis, converting sugars in the bloodstream to energy. From there, you increase your fatty oxygen breakdown. So you're burning fats at an increased level, and that also slows down glycogenolysis. From there, your insulin is less suppressed, so you're able to have your insulin rise and use the sugars in your body and burn them and prevent from being type 2 diabetic. And that also slows glycogenolysis. And the last is that you increase your ability to use type 1 fibers for cardiovascular activities or type 2 fibers for your weightlifting. Okay? And this is just a single joint exercise. That's wussy stuff. Okay? Your bench presses, your squats, your big muscles, man, that produces a lot of shock to the body. But we also want to be preventative too. Okay? Went off on a tangent. But basically, your ability to innervate your type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers, what happens there is you slow glycogenolysis again. So basically, this is what happens to lactic acid, following exercise, as far as we know, as far as the research is conducted in my studies in strength and conditioning at the graduate school, at exercise science and health wellness promotion in FAU, Boca Raton, and also from my practical experience over the last 10 years in training clients and things of this nature. I want to thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Please carry some of this knowledge with you and keep this video with you whenever you may need it. Have fun and exercise. Thank you, baby.